In the tower, the poppies flow. This magazine says the Tower of London. You're looking at 888,246 ceramic blooms, one for every fallen soldier in World War I, in this year that marks 100 years since the war to end all wars began. 61,000 Canadians are represented in that sea of red. Well, 80,000 are expected in the nation's capital today, with Princess Anne participating. Possibly 2,000 to 3,000 in Hamilton, just next door, standing room only. And as John said, oh, I just think this is so poignant, the front page of the Globe and Mail, representing the space for remembrance and gratitude being made by people of all ages on this Remembrance Day. It's a privilege to welcome back to the program a combat veteran of the British Army. John Shippam and his wife Wendy have survived a war of their own, which we'll be talking about. They have certainly helped me to better understand post-traumatic stress disorder. Welcome from Milton, Ontario. I have so looked forward to this day. And who knew, John, that you served at the Tower of London as a firefighter?
Oh, very close to it, because they haven't got a fire station in there, but just across the border. It's very close.
What year did you come to Canada?
91.
91. So the accent will remind us of your homeland. It's not funny, but the last time you were here in the green room, you said, we've been married for 36 years, 7 of them good ones, and not consecutive. You've had a journey, quite a journey. You married in 1978. You were teenagers. You had 3 children right away. But you had a lot to deal with. Wendy, you said that at the outset there wasn't too much sign of trouble.
No, the first 7 years were very, very happy, good years. Yes, and then I think the PTSD was catching up with John, and just the stuff he was seeing in the fire department as well from it. Finish that sentence.
Bubbled up. Where was the trauma? Where were you fighting, John?
Well, the first one was in Northern Ireland with the British Army in South Armagh, and then consequently moving around with the British Army, doing some United Nations work and moving around.
You just reminded me before we began to speak with some volume. Tell us about the explosion that probably represents.
Yeah. So I was in a place in Falkhill, actually, in South Armagh, and an IED went off. I was probably about 30 feet away. It was to my right and to my rear. I was in a vehicle, and as it was in a garbage can, and as it went off, obviously the explosion did a lot of damage. I was protected by a large truck that I was actually driving, and well, the only damage I really received is 50% loss of hearing. So it's with explosions, it takes out the higher frequencies, and so generally speaking, it's women and children that I can't hear. The bass level I can hear.
Now, compared to what you experienced physiologically, the hearing issue is minor.
Right.
Talk to us about post-traumatic stress.
So I would say that living in a place of everything's going wrong, and if you don't live there, you're just wondering the other shoe's going to drop any minute now. Even when something's good happening, there is always some kind of fear lurking around inside of your mind, your body. I lived with just in adrenaline all the time. Wendy has been in the street with me where a car has backfired and she's telling me to get up off the floor because I'm back.
Yes.
So that's happened all those years ago, not so much now. But
flashbacks, night sweats, the physiological reactions. I'm not making a direct comparison, but boy, I think there are menopausal moments for some women that sound a lot like this. But you told me that just there are moments where you're almost having an implosion. You cannot articulate what's happening, you can't live in your skin, and you have a tantrum.
Right. It's very much like I have, in them past years, it was very much like there was this 3-year-old trying to get out, and it ends up like if a 3-year-old is like 6 foot tall, they become a bully, and so bullying Wendy, bullying my family.
Now, Wendy, you were never physically assaulted by your husband.
No.
But you lived with fear.
Yes, yeah, his anger, breaking things, that sort of thing. I never knew if it would turn violent towards me.
And your concern was the children.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah.
What did this come to in your own view?
Well, I definitely came to a place where I was saying to God, I think I really need to get out of this marriage. And I felt as though God was saying that your children need their father, which really, you know, made me think, well, you know, if God isn't allowing me out of this marriage, then sounds a bit nasty, but I was saying,
tell them what you prayed. Tell them what you prayed.
I was like, God, if I can't leave this marriage, then either make John a Christian or kill him, and I don't care which one.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there are women watching who can understand that bottoming out. Your bioform is very interesting, Wendy, because we ask, when did Jesus become more than a name to you? You have 1972, 1984, 1992. Very interesting journey with Jesus.
So in 72, I went forward at a crusade type thing. You know, I'd been brought up in the Anglican church, and it just seemed very real at this crusade, and but very quickly I fell away. And then in '84 I moved close to a friend who was a Christian, and I had a lot of interactions then. And as much as I kept trying to talk to John about God, John was just way away from there. And then in 91, 92, John became a Christian, and so that was really where I recommitted.
And you thought, I'd better start forgiving him.
Right, yes. So, yeah, I had that where I kept trying to forgive John.
But you didn't have it.
But,
sure.
You know those times when you forgive someone, but next time you get the chance to get the knife out and put it in? I kept doing that to him. And I was like, really praying, why do I still keep feeling like this? And I had a lady in a Bible study, and she said to me one day, you're holding a lot against John, aren't you? And I'm like, yeah. She said, well, God's telling me one word. And I'm like, well, what's that word? And she said, it's resentment. And I'm like, yes, I thought I was forgiving, but I'm not. I'm bottling it all up in resentment. And then once I could pass that resentment over to God, then I didn't have to keep attacking him, which made him feel so much better.
And safer.
Well, God answered your prayer in a dramatic way. You were saying, Lord, save him or kill him. And
he did both.
He did.
No.
You think you died, John.
Yes. I haven't got a death certificate to prove it or anything, but...
can I just set it up
that
this post-traumatic stress was such that you were having palpitations of the heart constantly?
Yeah, I was living in adrenaline. There was no relaxed moments for me.
Tell us what happened. Can you capsulize it?
Yeah.
We really need the video.
Yeah.
But do your best.
I went to sleep like any other night, and I was all of a sudden not in this body. I felt as though I was nose to nose with God. And at that moment, he basically showed me what I was doing to others. And with the actions of the PTSD and how it was like coming out and manifesting with me, that really was, it was showing me how I was treating Wendy and the children, for example. And
there was fire in this dream.
There was a lot of fire. There was a lot of burning.
What was burning?
It was my stuff. That's a neat way to put it. It's my stuff. I could call it my sin. It was my fuel that was never ending. It was never being consumed. It was constantly with me. But the good thing is when I actually said to God, there's no escaping this. I can't actually wriggle my way out of this one and confronting the fact, yep, you've got me. It was at that point that that fire just changed into liquid love.
Wow.
And that melted me, and it began a work of transparency, of just being able to see myself and see through myself. And yeah, it was difficult to actually even see into myself, but becoming honest with myself, and then I started sharing what's really going on inside of me with Wendy. And it took how long for you to really understand what, because I was very incapable of the words of where I'd been. All I know from that experience was when God put me back into my body, that body hadn't been breathing for a long time. Mm-hmm. And so there was this almighty gasp. And I've seen people come back from the dead when I was in the fire department, when they've been in a fire, and so their body's shut down. You drag them out and you do CPR and stuff, and they come back, and there's that huge gasp, and that's what I clicked.
back into life, isn't it?
Yes, it's like being kick-started, and I recall that moment. It's as though my body kick-started.
You did have counseling, both of you, and in both of your stories, you put a capital T on transparency. We've seen it here. It was time to get honest with yourselves, honest with God, and the beautiful thing is that for 20 years, John, you've been a minister and a counselor, mm-hmm. and you left the corporate world, Wendy, in 2008 mm-hmm. to join in One Step Beyond Counseling and Coaching. And I learned something important today. Men don't like the word counseling. I know men who've got out of the car on their way to the counseling office. They don't like that, so you call it?
Coaching.
Coaching. And you do it on all levels. This isn't just about marital stress, insurance work, all kinds of things. But I love the question you ask of all of your clients. What is it?
So what do you trust in? What exactly is the foundation that you trust in?
Very good question. The answer can be life-changing.
When they look at themselves and they become transparent and introspective with themselves.
And Wendy, you say that the things that might have taken months to wrestle out on your marital battlefield, things come up, it takes minutes to resolve.
Now, yes.
That's what Jesus has
mm-hmm.
done.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, it's tremendous. I am delighted to have met you both. And thank you for all you're doing. I know you start every counseling session, especially if it's a marriage situation, by telling your own story. Mm-hmm. So no matter how messed up people are, they know they're in safe company.
Yes.
You've been there, done that.
Yep. Need to feel safe.
God bless you both.
Thank you.